Hello and welcome to another episode of Corgi Town, USA. We are now in the throes of season 6. If you're new here, hi, welcome. I am Candy. In my lap is Chuckles, our spokescorg.
And I am Kat, and at my feet is Digby, my dog. My doof.
Digby the doof dog.
Digby or now as he's known as Uncle Digby, because we have been fostering mamas and their puppies. And he's been Uncle Digby playing with the little puppies.
Uncle Digby.
He's so good.
He's so sweet.
Yes.
We also have in studio Tito in his crate so he doesn't knock down our equipment.
That's
'Cause
true.
He's a little tornado of a puppy. Tornado Tito. And we also have Booger and Mortimer Barnabas.
Yay. So we have a full house today.
We have a full house, yes, per usual, for the Corgi committee. We often talk about health and wellness, and I'm a trainer, so we talk about that as well. And we typically have a guest, but since Kat has some specific focuses, we thought we would interview our co-host about some very useful information today.
Right. So besides doing this podcast, which is not making us $1 million a week.
Yeah, will you please share?
Yeah, please share. So
get us
we
that.
Can,
get us there.
Yeah. I want to be up to the level. So there's a YouTube that we watch called Pasta Grammar, and Eve is from a town not too far from my hometown in Italy. She's from Desai, and I'm from Gigrafrondi, and or my parents are from Gigrafrondi, and so. Their podcast, their YouTube channel gets them to go to Italy every summer. And in fact, they bought a building that they turned into a restaurant over there.
Cool.
That's what I want this podcast to do for us. So please share.
So we can have Corgi Town,
so
Italia.
We can have Corgi Town, Italia.
Yeah. Okay. I'm here for it.
Exactly. So I am a grief recovery coach, an emotional support. I work with people who've had traumatic events. I can't say trauma because I'm not licensed, but who've had traumatic events and all things dealing with emotions. And I do that with hypnosis, neurolinguistic programming, timeline therapy, and something that I've done since I was a massage therapist back in 2006. I am a certified Bach flower practitioner. So I have been working with Bach flowers off and on for almost 20 years.
Okay, good. So Bach flower remedies.
Bach flowers. So BACH, and Dr. Edward Bach, he was a physician, a medical physician in England, 20s and 30s. And he found that certain flowers, wild flowers, so these are not cultivated in any way. Okay. To this day, they are collected from the wild in a certain way, and it's a whole big thing. You can read about it. And if they were set out in the sun in a bowl of water, so now it becomes a tea of sorts, and then you take that tea and you make it into a tincture, and a tincture simply means that you are preserving it with alcohol. In this case, it's brandy. So in homeopathy, the more you cut something, the more potent it becomes. It sounds backwards, but it's true. So these are homeopathic remedies. And what Dr. Bach found working with these flowers is that each of these flowers resonates, if you will, at a different vibrational level. And those vibrational levels coincide with emotions. And when we calm the emotions, when we balance the emotions, we balance the person or the dog or the cat. So when we balance the emotions, we balance behavior, we balance illness. And you know that to be true when you're super upset, when you're super stressed. That's when you get sick. You don't necessarily get sick when you're calm, cool, and collected. So I pulled out my Bach flowers again when we started doing fostering. and
Creating a calm environment.
creating a calm
because
environment.
it's new for the babies.
Yes. And I do this every once in a while. I'll pull them out and I'll put them back. And now I have incorporated using Bach flowers, both for animals and for humans, in my healing work. So that's what I'm doing.
Great. Awesome. So tell us what application you would use Bach flower remedies in.
All of them. So, just a couple of
Someone
examples.
hearing this
Right.
for the first time saying, Bach, what in the heck is that?
So, and you guys know Bach flower remedies. If you shop in Whole Foods, if you shop in Sprouts, if you shop in any health food store, you have seen it's a little dropper bottle. It's yellow and black. And the one that you've seen and the one that people tell you to get, especially if you've had a stressful situation, if you've had something happen to you, is Rescue Remedy. Rescue Remedy is actually a combination of 5 Bach flowers. And so Rescue Remedy is for immediate traumas. In fact, and you can look on Amazon, there is Pet Rescue Remedy. I strongly suggest every pet parent have either Rescue Remedy, because everybody should have a bottle of Rescue Remedy in their house, because if something happens, and something always does, you've gotten bad news, you've gotten good news. Sometimes good news can be so overwhelming.
A new challenge gives you anxiety.
A new challenge gives
Sure.
you anxiety. You can use that for a pet. I've said it before on the show. If you have multiple pets and a pet passes away, I would give the other pets immediately Rescue Remedy. It calms the situation. It calms them down. I had my cats on Rescue Remedy and myself after Barry passed away. So that's my husband who passed away. And we had everybody on Rescue Remedy to bring down that stress. So you've seen Rescue Remedy. You can go on Amazon, go wherever, and buy a bottle. You can buy the people version. You can buy the pet version. Honestly, I don't know the difference between the two. And the pet version, the people version, the pets can get. All of the Bach flower remedies, and there are 38 flowers, work on an emotional level. And when it balances the emotions, it now balances many physical things, many emotional things, behavioral issues. What I want to talk about today is behavioral issues.
Okay.
Behavioral issues.
Behavioral.
Exactly. So it started out most recently with the second rescue mama and puppies that we got. So the second rescue mama, her name was Agave, and she was skittish, to say the least. She came to us complete with trembles and the tail tucked firmly under her.
Poor baby.
She is a boxer mix, because when they come from the shelter, we know who the mama is. We just don't know who the daddy is.
Sure.
And she wouldn't go out on the leash. She wouldn't go and eat. She wouldn't, not that she wasn't hungry and she didn't eat, but it took so much for us to pick her up and physically put her in a room to eat. Because as you know, we have Digby and we have Indy, and they will go and eat their own food and everybody else's food.
Right.
She shook for everything. She would bark at us when we came out of the shower. So like you come out of the shower and you go in the hallway to go into the bedroom. She was
at threshold.
She was, yeah.
Yeah.
She would bark and the tail was underneath her. So I had just, unfortunately, Eric had gotten into a car accident and he was very stressed about that. And I immediately made him some remedies to calm him down with the stress of the car accident. And I said, well, let's see what we can do for Agave. Agave was also, we're taking her out for her walk. So she eventually go out for the walk. And she got along great with the dogs. She got along okay with the cats. She tried to play with the cats as if they were dogs, and they did not appreciate that.
The cats?
The cats, no. And she'd go out and she'd do her, she'd poo-poo and pee-pee. And then she'd immediately come to the house and pee on the rug, on the floor, on whatever. As soon as she got in.
Sure.
I wasn't having any of it, especially, I have my Persian expensive rug.
Oh boy.
Yeah. So I sat down and I went through her symptoms. So here are a few things. She had fear, and fear of known things. So, people. And she seemed to have fear of unknown things. Like she'd bark for no reason, more than a Corgi would. And she was just afraid. And for those who are like looking on YouTube, she shook. So she had fear. She was in a new environment, so that's change. She had she didn't have any aggression issues. She didn't want attention. She didn't want attention at all, but she had different emotional issues. And so I put together the remedies for her. Now, animals react so much faster than humans do because we think through all of our stuff. So I put together some remedies for her. 2 for fear of known, fear of unknown. 1 for change. One of them was she was overly protective-ish of her puppies. So when she first came to us, there were 8 puppies as well. So there were all these different issues, and I went down the list and I put together the remedies for her. So you put 2 drops in a remedy bottle, and then you top it off with purified water. 4 drops in her water every time I refilled the water.
Okay. How long did it take you to see results?
A day. She stopped peeing in the house in a day, maybe 2 days.
Oh. And
now she became calmer. Everybody went and got fixed. And as soon as everybody's is fixed, spayed and neutered, we can adopt them out. So for the shelter, I can return them to the shelter, or I can keep them and have people come to the house and meet and greet and adopt them out. And I don't want to return them to the shelter, especially not Agave after all the work that we just did.
Yeah. And she's already scared.
So it over the course of 8 puppies getting adopted out, I would put the walnut, because now this is a new situation. So I would change up her remedies every week or so. And I made sure that she had the walnut.
Well, the walnut.
Walnut is one of the remedies that is the specific remedy for change.
Okay.
So if things are changing.
So let's be clear about this, because walnuts are not something that you want your dog to have.
No,
so walnut
is it, again, a little bottle. It is,
but it's Bach flower.
It's Bach flower.
It's like a strain.
So it is it's actually the flower. So what they use is the flower of all of these things.
Okay.
So in the wild, they will collect walnut flowers.
Okay.
And those flowers are put into a bowl of spring water, and they are set out in the sun, and they make a tea. And from the tea, they make the tincture. So there is no nuts. There are no, none of this. So we went from barking with our tail under us. So she bark and bark and bark at anybody who came to the house with the tail underneath, to barking, but the tail is wagging.
Okay.
And shaking, to just shaking, to the other day when we had 2 people who were interested in Agave. And one ended up not calling back. Happens often. And the other person, as you know, happens to be a friend of ours. Small world. So when she and her husband, I know, he's so adorable.
Chuckles is perching on our studio table here.
Yes, with his little head down and his little paws on the table. When this husband and wife who gave her forever home came over, she shook, no barking. And a couple days before, we had an exterminator come over, and the guys were in the living room talking about, some of the issues we were having. And she shook, but no barking.
Okay.
So she went from shaking and barking to shaking. And then when her new parents came in, she shook, and then she stopped, and then she went over to him, and then she went over to her. And she happily went home with them. Aww. And I have pictures, and she's doing good.
So are they keeping her on the Remedies?
They are keeping her on the Remedies. Remedies are not forever. That's the really cool thing about them. Remedies are not forever. They deal with the emotions that are happening right now. If there is, as I said, a tragedy, something huge, you put them on rescue remedy. In this time period that we had her, so for about a month and a half that we had her, I changed out her remedies about every 2 weeks.
Okay.
It goes faster for animals than it does for people.
Okay.
And each time I would go over the list, what symptoms is she showing?
Sure.
And change out or keep some of them. Now, the really cool thing about Bach flower remedies is that it takes care of like the onion, it takes care of the outer layer, and then we've got a next layer. And we have maybe a different presentation, like the fear. We have a different presentation of the fear, or it may bring up something that was there, but it wasn't presenting forward.
Okay.
And she's doing great. So she has the remedies. And if she needs another batch, I am happy to go over what symptoms she's showing and then make remedies based on that.
That's a wonderful story. Well, and you're talking about behavioral, addressing behavioral to this. As a trainer, I'll get questions about aggressive dogs. Yes. And so often aggression, that's a kind of blanket term for unwanted behavior.
Right.
Sometimes it's herding instinct. It's misinterpreted as aggression. But oftentimes it's a fear response. It's because they're insecure about something, either resource guarding from insecure materials or insecure in a certain situation. They're not confident. They're not confident around people, other dogs. And then you get these presentations of what would fall under a blanket term of what people often misinterpret as aggression. So when you think about that as being a fear response, I can understand something that's there to address fear and anxiety being a huge help. So if somebody wanted to get started using Bach flower remedies, how would they get started? What would you tell somebody?
I would, again, everybody should have rescue remedy in the house. Something is going to happen.
And do you think these are better than like the over-the-counter calming chews we can find at the pet store? Because I tell clients often, I'm a big fan of calming chews for a specific, and it's addressed that way because it's acute. You're not going to put them on the calming chews for like a long term. It's for acute anxiety. So they have some that are CBD, but they also have some, which I personally like a little better, which is tryptophan, which is the turkey. Turkey ingredient.
So it's compound. It's a yes and.
Okay.
For rescue remedy, again, something happened to the humans, to the pets. Something happened. So we want to give them rescue remedy because your anxiety is up here.
Like a storm, fireworks.
You want to give them that, and that brings them calm. And over time, it balances out their emotional reaction. I'm a good example of this. I fly a lot. I had a tremendous fear of flying.
Oh.
So I would be I'd be in a plane and we would hit turbulence, as planes often do. And the poor person who would be sitting next to me, stranger, no,
Would
never
have
a
claw
stranger.
marks on their arm.
Yes. So my dear late husband had permanent scratches in his arm because I would just flip out, and I would, the heavy breathing,
Hyperventilate.
and the twitchiness and all of this stuff. So I began to bring Rescue Remedy with me.
Okay.
And you always want to dilute it, and sometimes I couldn't. Sometimes I just had it in my hand, and I would just put some drops, and you can do it straight. It doesn't matter.
You went hard.
I went hard. Again, it's actually when you dilute something that's a homeopathic remedy, it is stronger when you dilute it. However, when you're taking off, when you're landing, and when there's turbulence, nobody's coming around with a glass of water for you. So over time, doing this every time I flew, over time, I don't have a problem with turbulence anymore.
That's great.
So it's not just
it's like classical conditioning. You've conditioned yourself, like we do in training, classical conditioning, Pavlovian. Every time you had the experience in a calmer physiological state,
yes,
which shaped you to have a better experience.
It also, it physically balances you. So on a very physical level, the neurons that are firing, the chemical balance, it actually balances you. So somebody wants to get started with Bach flowers, absolutely, you can always have that bottle of Rescue Remedy in the house. 4 drops in a glass of water for you, 4 drops in their bowls. Every time you refill the bowls, over a couple of days to a week or 2, when the trauma happens. If you are going to want to give your pets or your family Bach flowers, I'm going to suggest that you get trained in it. And again, it's a box. I have a box of 38 remedies. It ain't cheap.
Okay.
It's not cheap. So when you go to the store, each bottle is going to cost you between $15 and $20.
Okay.
Find a Bach flower practitioner. I am a Bach flower practitioner. So what I will do is go through a list of questions for you or for your pet. So it takes away that my dog's being aggressive. Well, what do you mean by aggression? No, I'm going to ask specific questions. Mm-hmm. Is the dog resource guarding? Is the dog getting into fights with other animals? Is the dog getting into fights with people? Has something in the dog's life changed? So there are very specific questions. Each question relates to a particular flower. Mm-hmm. And so now I jot that down. And at the end, I will take the top issues first, because there's a limit to how many you want to put in at once, because you don't want to drive the body crazy. And we'll do those first. And oftentimes doing those makes the other emotions calm down. Okay. It simply balances emotions. It's amazing.
Great. So tell everybody how they can get a hold of you if they want to start using Bach flower remedies for their pet.
Well, one more thing.
Yes.
So when we were working with agave, when I was working with agave, agave was a good water drinker. We live in the desert, and so
hydration is important.
Hydration is super important for us, and I always love when my animals drink water. My cats flipping don't drink water, so I have to put it in their food. That's just something with cats.
Cats be cattin'.
Cats be cattin'. Every single water dish around the house, including the water dishes that were mainly where the cats hung out, I would put in the 4 drops. So Digby, Indy, Star-Lord, Naboo, everybody drank from except Eric and I, everybody drank from those water dishes. It does not negatively affect the other animals in the house.
Okay, great.
So just, you don't have to put your pet, okay, this is only your water, whatever. Put the drops in there. And if the other pets have some emotional issues that are going on, and one of the flowers there is, for that emotional issue, bonus. So you can get in touch with me. Make Change Permanent is my website, and you'll have all that contact information there. I'm on Instagram, but I don't really talk about the Bach flowers. Make Change Permanent on Instagram and Facebook.
I'll drop the website into the description box of this episode.
Absolutely. And yeah, and on there you'll have my phone number. Because I'm not going to give you my phone number if you're driving, and I know you're not going to pull over and write it down. So it'll be on the it'll be on the episode in the comments. Give me a call if it's something that I say, oh, you guys are moving, and you just had a baby, and you know what? Go online, go to Whole Foods, go to Sprouts. P.S. Sprouts and Whole Foods, if you'd like to sponsor this show, now that I mentioned you like 27 times, and just get a bottle of walnut. It is a tincture. It is not walnuts crushed in there, so don't worry about that. And just get a bottle of that and put a couple of drops every morning into their water, and every time you change out the water, so you won't need somebody like me. And if there's more going on, make the remedies. I ship them out. I can ship them all over the country. I guess I can ship them internationally. I'm not sure. And if you are, if you work with animals, for example, you, I am creating a certification class about Bach flowers.
Great.
So it could be super, super helpful for people. That's down the line.
Yeah.
So right now, just Make Change Permanent.
Yeah.
And yeah, ask me anything about them.
Hit cat up for your pets.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, thank you for educating us today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah,
I mean, you have me on the show every time, but having
I feel
me
smarter with Bach flower.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's not a fly by night thing. I mean, he did this in the 20s and 30s, not this 20s and 30s, the 19 ones.
Oh,
so
the 1900s.
It's 100 years old now.
Oh, pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, we hope you enjoyed this episode. And this is a special one because we were interviewing our co-host.
Yes.
But we're here every week, all things pet and corgi lifestyle. Please like, subscribe, share with your friends. We have all kinds of content concerning pet parentage, over 120 some odd episodes.
Yes.
So,
and I think one of these episodes, and put it down in the comments, but I believe one of these episodes I should interview you on how to train your pet.
let's do that.
Let's do that.
Okay.
All right.
We'll see you next week.
Until next time.
Bye.
Bye.